Come in. I'll call the meeting to order tonight of the Williamsport City Council for a special session, Monday, August 30th, 2021. It's 4 minutes after 7. We're at Trade and Transit 2 Center. Please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have two members absent tonight, Councilman Yoder and and Councilman Mackey had prior commitments and couldn't make it tonight for this special meeting. We'll go to item 2, limited courtesy of the floor. We've had one request, and make your way to the podium.
Despite this, no one in the room wearing a mask. So I'm wondering, my concern is not so much that this is to alleviate the disease, which I understand I'm fully in favor of. My main concern is that it's not being used to censor the public, or to censor information going to the public. That's my main concern. And I feel that it could be used for that right now. So I'm glad I had a chance to say something. As far as this resolution is concerned, I guess it makes sense if something happens, it makes it easier to address the issue. But like I said in the past, I think it was incorrectly addressed. I have questions as to why one government body is doing it, another one isn't. I have questions as, we have a big, huge place here. We can space, we can wear masks, have a mask edict when you come in here. Seems like there's a lot of ways to do this in the future rather than close it off to the public. That's and that might not even it might not have anything to do with this conversation, but if it does in the future, if it comes to that, I think it's something that has to be taken into consideration. Maybe a public meeting should be called before the edict goes out that there won't be any public meetings. It seems to me that we've already established steps for that. I mean, kids are going to school with masks, they're distance apart. The commissioners are doing it, so if it comes down to it, I think it has to be really a radical situation. I think other things should be tried first. People should wear masks first and be distance. Even limit the number of people in the room if they have to. And it's a huge room. So I think there's a lot of things to be done before we close it off to the public again. That should never happen except as a drastic last resort. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay. Thank you. Excuse me. We'll move to item 3 then. Resolution, would you read that in short form, please, Mrs. Frank?
Resolution addressing physical, in-person, and/or virtual meetings for Williamsport City Council.
Thank you, Mrs. Frank. Is there a motion and a second from council? So moved. Moved and seconded. I will read this resolution in its entirety and then provide a little bit of context, and then we'll have discussion amongst council members. Whereas, based on the increase of the positive COVID infection rate in Lycoming County, the CDC's and the city's medical director's recommendation to advise wearing masks indoors regardless of vaccination status. Whereas indicated in Resolution 9079, passed in October 22nd, 2020, stating the City Council of the City of Williamsport will meet in Trade and Transit 2 Center, 144 West 3rd Street, 3rd floor, to in-person and/or remote at 7 p.m. And whereas due to the unpredictability of events and circumstances that can affect City Council's ability to conduct in-person meetings, now therefore be it further resolved that the City Council of the City of Williamsport is exercising its option to conduct meetings in person or remote at the discretion of City Council President, or in his or her absence, City Council Vice President as needed. There's several points made in this resolution that pertain to why we're meeting tonight. There is an uptick in our county of infections, and there's been concerns raised by council members, but also I'm sure some of the staff as well is concerned about that. And I want to refer back to this resolution we passed in October of 2020. It's when we set our schedule of meetings for the entire year. And by resolution, we passed the entirety of these meetings with the option of going to Zoom or meeting in person. And we did exercise that option during the year. And then we to go meeting remotely in Zoom. Then in 2021, we exercised the option to go public or meet physically like this. And we did that by resolution. However, we had the right under this resolution, the October 20th, 2020 resolution, to do that. What we're doing tonight is refining that to put the mechanism in here to be able to make that change in a, let's say, a cleaner way than having to organize an entire meeting to do it, where we can discuss it and then, you know, have all the parameters set. But in this case, in the event that it's needed, we can exercise this new mechanism at the discretion of the president or vice president. So I've kind of said that the same thing 3 different ways, but forgive me for that. But I want to address the third paragraph down. Whereas due to the unpredictability of events and circumstances that can affect City Council's ability to conduct in-person meetings, that has to do with the unpredictability of life right now. We have a pandemic. We have a physical problem with our facilities at City Hall, where it's constrained everything that we do practically on the administrative side. So that is still fluid somewhat. Everybody's not moved out yet. I believe codes are still there. They are going to relocate, but in the meantime, there's a lot of loose ends that still need tied up. Nothing major, I don't believe, but for our administration and our city departments to move efficiently, there's still work to be done, which is natural under these kinds of circumstances. So taking all those things into consideration, we drafted this resolution, or it's drafted tonight in order for, and on the table now for us to discuss as council people. And what we now have the mechanism, what's the appropriate time, and I think given some of these outside circumstances, we should make a decision tonight, but we'll take a vote on that. Ms. Mealy.
Thanks. I mean, the one other slight unpredictability that I would add to the list is that because we're a 7-member council that also relies on technological assistance from the administration, we have the possibility for enough people to be ill or absent to put us at risk of not having a quorum for a meeting, or to not be able to televise the meeting depending on the availability of our technological aid. So I think that additionally means that it behooves us to find an alternate option in case an in-person meeting is not a successful alternative. You know, I mean, I would like to think that vaccination would protect us to a certain extent from illness affecting council, but on the off chance that it wouldn't, something like that, I think it's wise to have, to be able to get enough of us together to make that a possibility, which is, perhaps to Mr. Steckel's point, a little less simple with 7 people than it is with 3. But yeah, there's, the world has been unpredictable, and the city's been unpredictable, and everything's been unpredictable for a while now. So I think this is a wise option to have for ourselves.
No. No other comments? Okay. I'll entertain a motion. I entertain, we have the motion. No other comments. We'll have the vote then, please. Mrs. Frank.
Mr. Pelizzi?
Yes.
Mrs. Katz? Yes. Mr. Banks? Yes. Ms. Mealy? Yes. Mr. Allison?
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. So we've passed that motion. And for the reasons that I talked about, and the very valid point that Councilwoman Mealy brought up, that things are fluid in a lot of different areas, not just in our city and our city government, but in larger ways, nationally and internationally, that affect everything that everyone does. So we want to be able to, this allows us to meet those challenges in an efficient and quick manner. So given this new mechanism, I believe it's appropriate for us to return to Zoom meetings at this particular time. They are public. They're accessible, and for some people, they're more accessible than having to come here publicly, having to make the trip in for a number of different reasons. They're live streamed. People access them that way. You can pick it up on your television. You can pick it up on your telephone, your computer. There's all kinds of ways to access city council meetings, regardless of whether we're meeting in person or we're meeting meeting remotely that weren't available decades ago, or a short time ago, really. You had to be here physically to be able to really hear the meeting, know what was going on, or you get to read it in the paper the next day. And because of technology now, I really don't see that as an impediment to having open meetings. I think it's more open and public than it's ever been. So that's just my personal feeling, but I think that's really the reality of the society we live in today, the world we live in, really. So tonight, I'm going to make that decision as president of council that we will go to Zoom meetings, starting with our September 9th meeting, which is our next regularly scheduled meeting. Any other comments from council people? Ms. Mealy?
You know, I've always got something to say. Actually, all I was going to say is that I do think, I would agree with you, Randy, that that in many ways the meetings are actually more accessible when they're done on a digital platform than they are when they're here and in person. The one thing that I think that we should clarify now as much as possible and make as clear as possible on our website moving forward, and maybe Mr. Warfel can help me with this, is the best way to make public comment. Because that's the one thing that is certainly a little bit more complicated when you're watching the meeting remotely than when you're here in person. So, Mr. Warfel, I know you're behind the camera, but could you go over for us what the procedure for public comment is?
Actually, I think that's something we're going to have to get together with and figure out what the best way to do that will be. That way the public is engaged and able to do that. So I think it'd be a collaborative effort between somebody you guys appoint from council for me to work with, as well as the legal department, just to see what the best and right way to do that would be.
Okay.
I don't want to speak out of turn and come up with something that might not check all the boxes or satisfy everybody.
So you're saying we should have a procedure in place then, but I would say next Tuesday, the 7th, so that people can get on board with it. I know
That's
that in the
correct.
past we've done written public comment. Certainly if there's another avenue available, I think any of us would be open to that, but whatever's most, allows people to make comments that are heard by city council and by other people watching the meeting, but also retains the security of the meeting. I think those are the two things that are desirable.
Yeah. So yeah. One thing, just speaking out of brainstorming here. I mean, we could have a published phone number that they call that rolls into a phone that's here, or actually wouldn't even be here, that rolls into the Zoom meeting. I think the problem we had with that in the past is just somebody having to screen those calls, and whose authority is it to screen whether to really determine whether they're a citizen of Williamsport. I think there are a lot of questions that went into that. I wasn't really part of that process, but I think we definitely need to get together, work out the logistics, figure out the best way to do it.
Okay.
So.
So let's try and work on that then, because as I said, I think we need to have that in place, whatever that system is, obviously before next Thursday's meeting, but ideally before Tuesday, so that we can perhaps make it a part of our Zoom meetings on Tuesday, our Zoom committee meetings, to tell people how to submit comments at the council meeting on Thursday. Okay. With that singular exception, as I said, I think that meetings in person and digitally are really pretty much equally, and digital meetings might be slightly more accessible to the public. So I don't see a major issue with going remote, but I do think that we clearly need to iron out the public comment element of it. Thanks, Josh.
Okay. Every government institution or arm of government has to adapt to what's best for them, what they feel doing regarding their circumstances. And we're seeing a lot of that with school districts right now, how they're bringing the students back in. And one local school district is having everybody masked. Other districts, they're not. And they're dealing with it in the way that they best see fit, which I don't believe there are a lot of clearly cut lines that are right or wrong. It's what that group or that community feels comfortable with. And the governing body over that governmental entity has to make the decision. So we're making our decision and going to move ahead with that for now. Obviously, everybody wants this to be as temporary as possible, but out of caution and out of really to protect as many people as possible, given that there's an increase in infections, and it's quite possible we don't know the full extent of that yet. So that's something else to take into consideration. I will read then upcoming meetings. Monday, September 6th, City Hall is closed for Labor Day. And tomorrow's the last day to get in your real estate taxes before the discount period's over. Tuesday, September 7th, 11:30 a.m. Public Safety, 1 p.m. Finance meeting, 2:30 p.m. Public Works meeting. Wednesday, September 8th, 3:30 p.m. O&E Pension. Thursday, September 9th is our City Council meeting. Here's a reminder that the second meeting of our public work session between the administration and council on our ARPA disbursement funds is September 23, September the 23rd, 2021 at 7 p.m. Will probably be held Zoom, but we'll see what happens. Are there any comments from council people tonight? Any more? Administration's not here, so any more comments from the public? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.